Yo, what's going on, guys? So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact pre-call email sequence that got us a 100% show rate across 30 days and 80 to 90% show rate across 3 months, which allowed us to cash collect over 50K in January alone with a sub 10K following across all platforms, completely organically. And if you stick around till the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can access and actually steal my Claude prompt so that you can write your own high converting pre-call email sequence in less than an hour. So yeah, it's going to be super saucy. So yeah, make sure to stick around for that. And with that said, this video is going to be split into 2 parts. So first I'm going to show you the exact pre-call email sequence structure that I used to create this sequence, and then in the second part of this video, I'm going to actually be breaking down the sequence, the emails line by line, and showing you and explaining the first principles as to why these emails work and why this sequence worked as a whole. So you can actually fundamentally understand the concepts behind why this pre-kill email sequence did so well. So yeah, with that said, let's get into it. But a quick note before we get into this, I really can't emphasize this enough, but please take all of the tactics that I'm about to break down in this video with a grain of salt. And what I mean by tactics is like the tactical stuff, like the frameworks, the prompts, the SOPs, all of that. Take it with a grain of salt, because the truth is the info space is becoming increasingly AI generated, and as a result, the copy, the messaging, the marketing, it's becoming increasingly bland. Everyone's messaging sounds the same. Every offer sounds the same. Like every false promise that prospects have heard of, 100 times before. And so people are becoming extremely lazy by handing everything to AI, and then they dare ask and wonder why nothing in their marketing is converting, right? But the truth is that this has also created a massive opportunity, a positive one, right? Because it's never been easier nowadays to stand out to your competitors, because the bar is so unbelievably low when it comes to marketing, because no one actually places importance and sees the importance of that, and everyone just outsources it to AI. Right? So when I give you these frameworks, these SOPs, these prompts, these aren't going to magically transform your info coaching business, okay? Because if you don't understand the first principles, and I always talk about this in all of my videos, behind why something works, your copy is just going to sound like every other competitor and no one is going to buy. Okay, no amount of AI is going to fix bad messaging, bad marketing, bad copywriting, and that is why in this video I'm not just going to be handing you these tactics, because I'm going to break down why this specific pre-call process that I wrote and created the way performed the way it did using first principles. I'm going to break it down using that psychology. So if you understand that first, then the frameworks and the SOPs and the prompts are actually going to become useful to you. But if you don't, then you're just going to be sounding like everyone else in the industry and nothing is going to convert. Okay, so I want to highlight the importance of the pre-call email sequence and a structure and format that you can follow. But obviously, you'll notice that when I get into the actual example of the pre-call email sequence that I wrote for this specific offer, it doesn't sound super structured and like I'm literally using this word for word structure in my in the email sequence, right? Because again, the whole idea is to use this as a structure, not as a thing that you copy paste and you make it sound like the same for every other offer that you write for, or if you're a copywriter or if you're a growth operator, or just put it into AI, use the prompt and fuck off, pretty much, right? No, you want to take your time with this and make sure you lean into the brand voice of the offer owner and the authenticity side of things that separates you from everyone else as a coach, right? Because again, as a coach, you want to sell yourself, right, as being a good fit for these people and being someone that they can vibe with, right? Not just someone that is trying to sell a program. Yeah, your offer is one part of what you're selling. The other part is you. Okay, so that's gonna be very important, and that's why again I say take this with a grain of salt. But with that said, let's get into it. So day one, basically, first of all, overview wise, this pre-call email sequence runs for 3 days. There's 3 emails per day, so 9 emails total, and the goal is really to get high buying intent and increase the likelihood of people showing up on calls with high buying intent, is what I meant to say. And The way that we do that is, again, by almost hammering them with emails, right? So 3 emails per day for 3 days up until they book a call is a lot. And we do that for, again, the same reason of getting them to really show up with a high buying intent. So that's why, mainly in these emails, we're breaking down objections, we're walking them through our story, and we're making it flow very well, almost like it's an adventure, like a Netflix series almost. That's the way I like to think about it. And so getting into day 1 here, we have confirming and building curiosity. So email 1 just confirms the call, sets the expectations, tells them what to expect, and links them to the booking page breakdown. Then, basically, the booking page breakdown is the gamma that we were talking about, which is just the post-call booking page, so they can read through the document if they haven't already. So that's just a good way to kind of get them back to that and consume all of that information, so we get a lot of info consumption before the call, and clarity as well. Email number 2 is a simple, do you have any questions before we talk? Hit reply, use the sent from my iPhone. This is something I learned from Jeremy Haynes, and it's really smart because it feels really casual and conversational, and incentivizes to, it's almost, it's unexpected, it's a pattern interrupt, and it gets a lot of replies as a result of that. Then, and it's very open-ended, right? So it can be any questions, and it could, give you a lot of market research as well that you can then use in your marketing in your front end. Then email 3 is a client story, where they were before, the turning point, the result, basic story, and on a strong quote, and then tease what's coming tomorrow. Again, you don't have to follow this structure email by email, but this is a good overarching structure that is proven to work. Day 2, objections and authority. Email 4, take the biggest objection head on, no softening it, just address it directly. Okay, what is the biggest objection that people have? Address it head on, break it down, and they should really be leaving that email with full clarity on that, and no fear at all or no doubt about whatever that thing was. Email number 5, pure value. Okay, you really want to demonstrate your authority, your expertise. So give them a tip or a process that they can actually use today, something tangible, concrete, and shows your stuff. Email number 6, second transformation story, different pain point this time. So you want to target specific pain points in your transformation story so that you relate to the audience, to different, the different buckets of your audience, right? Because obviously different ICPs are going to face different pain points and different problems, so you want to make sure that you're relating to every single one of them, or as many as possible. So it could be speed of results, different pain point this time, speed of results, ease of execution, whatever they care about most. Okay, now day 3, urgency and momentum. Email 7, cost of inaction. So highlight the cost of inaction. What does life look like in 90 days if nothing changes, for example, or painting a picture, where you essentially paint a picture between the top of the mountain scenario where everything is great and they've decided to take action, and the rock bottom scenario where they don't decide to take action, and as a result XYZ things have happened, and the consequences, really highlighting the consequences of what this call coming up is going to dictate in their life. Then when it comes to email 8, this is going to be about recapping why this is different from everything else they've seen, why this specific program is different from what they've seen, and get them thinking about what is possible, right? From there, email 9 is a final touch point before the call, so it's a simple sort of reminder email, what to have ready, the link, end on something that gets them in the right headspace. And then finally, you can have an optional email 10, which is something I like to do, is just literally have a photo of you on the Zoom call, or of your client, the offer owner, on the Zoom call, or the sales rep, just literally saying, I'm live waiting for you, on the call right now, here's the link, and really simple. Now in terms of formatting, some rules to keep in mind. Make sure when writing emails in general to combine long sentences with shorter ones, aka using a mountain structure, or like a peaks and troughs structure, whatever you want to call it, where you essentially combine longer lines with shorter lines so that you keep retention as high as possible, and you diversify the formatting of your copy so it doesn't look all the same and therefore look boring, right? So from there, make sure to space out between each line, and always, again, skip lines between each sentence. Never combine multiple sentences within one line. Otherwise, it just looks like a big chunk of paragraph that nobody wants to read. Bold lines matter the most. Make it easy to skim and still land the point. So what this means is basically just from the words that you bold inside your emails, people should be able to, just by reading those bolded words, be able to tell the big idea of your email, right? So making sure as a result to bear that in mind when you're bolding your emails or the copy inside of your email, because that will give you an idea of like how to actually bold correctly so that it is cohesive and you're only bolding really the key points from the email. Then every email needs to come back to the call, okay? Remind them that it is happening, right? Don't just try to go off on a tangent and just like, obviously you still want to be able to, provide value and get them to show up with high buying intent. But again, the goal is to get them to show up, right? So don't forget that these emails are, should be all used as reminders as well to get them to show up to the call, right? So don't forget to link back to the big goal of the sequence, which is to get them on the call, right? And then make sure that your email opens a loop for the next one. So try to end on some sort of like cliffhanger if you can. That's always what I recommend because, you want your sequence to follow a cohesive sort of story, almost like a Netflix series of emails that gets people to want to keep reading and gets people entertained and emotionally involved. Because that way they just keep coming back for more. Your show rate's higher, or your open rates are higher, and therefore your show rate to the call is higher because the more they consume, the more they're likely to actually show up to the call with high buying intent. So with that said, let's get into the actual pre-call email sequence that got us a 100% show rate. I'm going to break it down now line by line. So let's get into it. So now let me show you the finished example after using the AI prompts, after knowing the frameworks, and after, more importantly, understanding first principles and iterating based on first principles. Okay, so getting into it here. Email number 1, it's time to print, first name, must read. Okay, incentivizing people to read, very conversational, colloquial, because that is how the offer owner speaks. What's good, eLegend? Again, using wording that the offer owner uses on a day-to-day basis and how they actually communicate. Huge, super duper important. Your call is locked in for X day, X time. I'd like to now officially welcome you to my pre-call email sequence. Now, the reason why we do this specifically, and we're being super transparent, is because of the fact that they are aware that this is a pre-call email, because this audience is very sophisticated. Okay, we are targeting growth operators here. So because this audience is so sophisticated, we want to actually lean into that and understand and show that we understand that. Okay, because otherwise it creates this salesy dynamic where it's like, okay, well, I know you're doing a pre-call sequence, bro. So it's like, these emails just sound really salesy and they don't really make me want to hop on that call. But realistically, when you're transparent about it, it eliminates that sales resistance that people may have and makes them a lot more receptive to these emails. Now, between now and when we hop on the call, I'll be sending you 3 emails a day, breaking down blah, 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 how it's like working with us, some fire growth up systems you can steal, and few student results to get you hype and ready to piff. Again, we're being very transparent that this call that they're going to show up to is meant for them to, invest in themselves. Okay, and we're being very transparent about it because that is how we speak. We're very upfront about it because, again, the market is super aware, and based on the awareness level of your market, you should tailor your emails to that. Okay, that's going to be very important as well. Okay? Again, understanding first principles, that's where that comes from. So first, let me give you clarity on what's going to happen on the call. We're going to talk about where you're at as a growth hub, what's keeping you stuck at your current level, and whether the portfolio growth hub model makes sense for you. So here we're teasing the new opportunity. And to be completely transparent, we're bringing on only 10 to 15 operators max, blah, 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 so creating a little bit of scarcity, and explaining why as well, and actually get you results instead of throwing you in a 500-person course. Now, as you know, most operators right now are running the old growth up model, which I like to call the boyfriend model. One client, doing everything yourself to please the client, praying they don't leave. Okay, right? And so our audience is very young, so using this sort of wording and using this fun and making this whole process almost like fun to read is important, because that is how the actual audience speaks, and this is what they would resonate with. And so again, it comes from really deeply understanding your audience, because obviously this would not work for any audience, right? So I'm not ashamed in showing you guys this email sequence, because I know you guys probably, most of you can't copy this, and actually no one can copy this, because this is only for one specific offer and one audience, right? And so you can't actually copy when the marketing and the messaging is good, because it's adapted to that specific offer and doesn't sound generic like every other freaking pre-call email sequence or every other emails that you've probably read from other coaches or other info programs and whatnot. We've all been brainwashed into believing the dream of finding that one client and scaling them to the moon, like the Pierre and Brez relationship, which realistically is pretty much impossible to find. And so my partner Jake and I decided to build a more sustainable, less gay version of the growth up model. One where you have boom, and then we kind of get into the opportunity, and then we kind of explain it, and then we just say, enjoy the rest of these emails. I'm excited to meet you on call. And then we have a PS section where we have, we shot a quick video walking them through how we're going to scale you as a growth up as an unlisted YouTube video. So just increase content consumption again before the call, get them super hype, and show up with high buying intent. Email 2, outreach is retarded. So here we're really hinting at a specific belief they have, and we're like breaking it down, and we're like basically reshaping it. And so it kind of ties back into our specific opportunity and what we offer inside the program, because we really place emphasis on like building your brand as a growth operator instead of doing outreach. And so yeah, that's kind of what we get into there. But again, you can see with the wording, it really resonates with the way that we speak, a younger audience, and the way that the offer owner speaks as well. Right now, boys, for example, you know what I mean? So all of that ties in back to the importance of messaging. And, we've had DMs of people from that went through this pre-call sequence and joined the program who told us that this was the most funniest sales process ever, and they loved it because it resonated with them, and that's why it's so important, right? So then we kind of throw rocks at enemies. So we're doing the basic sort of persuasion tactics where it's important to alleviate people's fears, allay their fears. Wait, did I just say that? So yeah, we're basically throwing rocks at enemies, because again, we're getting into like the importance of just like the basic persuasion. Like people will do anything. I don't know if you've heard this from Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson, but people will do anything for people that justify their failures, throw rocks at their enemies, and have that common enemy together. So that's what we're doing here. Allay their fears and justify their suspicion. Did I already say that? I might have. But anyways, you're going to get ignored, blah, blah, blah. So we basically get into this email as, throwing rocks at enemies and positioning our new opportunity as, again, hyping it up and showing how we're different, and showing that our specific solution is better than anything out there, and how, as a result, once we're doing that, we basically position ourselves as being the only logical solution for that, right, to achieve their desired outcome using this specific business model, right? So that's pretty much what we're doing here. Again, in terms of the formatting, we're bolding, we're using highlighting, we're making it super easy to read, we're using bullet points, we're being very specific and juicy, and yeah, we're using images as well to make it a little bit more entertaining and easier to read, again. So yeah, and then we end in tomorrow's email. I'm going to be breaking down how one YouTube video made us over 60K in tracked cash. So again, teasing and building really, really deep curiosity, right? So pattern interrupt, again, with the subject lines, you want to use pattern interrupts as much as possible. So for example, this shitty video made me 60K, full breakdown, right? So again, like, obviously creates a pattern interrupt in the prospect's mind, because they're like, well, what? Well, how? Like, I want to know how to do that. Like, my videos are probably shit, so like that probably means like I can make money as well, right? So it also increases the perceived likelihood of achievement, which I just thought of just now. So we kind of get into it. We explained about, the email, the story, the backstory behind it, and the results. So it's really just like almost like a transformation story, like we talked about in the framework, but we're framing it in a unique way that resonates with this audience. So that's why it's so important. It's like you use that framework as a framework. You don't copy it. You use it as a framework, and then you tailor it to make it unique to your offer, to your ICP, to your brand voice, and all of that, to make it really pop and make it really resonate with your audience. Cool. And then we have the full link at the end, so they can watch the actual video that we said was like the shitty video that made us 60K, whatever. Now we have a very pattern interrupted email. Now this is like optional, obviously, but this is like kind of more of a fun little tangent, if you will, where basically these guys were business partners. So basically we had the business partner, aka steal the laptop of the offer owner. So Jake here stole Jonas's laptop, and then from there we kind of break it down. And Jake just basically rants and gives his take on the info space, and again throws rocks at enemies, which is a great lever to pull in terms of persuasion in general. And then we kind of get into like that's, oh my goodness, these mosquitoes are huge. Anyways, I was going to say, that's how we actually introduce the deliverables of the program. So, it's important to recap. I'm pretty sure it was mentioned in the framework, but essentially we're showing very clearly how we're different, and concretely by using the specific deliverables inside the program that make us different. And so, that's very important too. But again, we're doing that in a unique way, right? We're not just following the format, the structure, the stuff that AI gave us. We're doing it in a unique way, and we're presenting it in a story that's easy to consume and entertaining to consume, right? It doesn't feel salesy at all as a result of that. And that's the power of storytelling, by the way. And before I forget, and then we get into like more content consumption. We also link another video here. And we also get creating a story around it, respond to this email with either Jake or Jonas to let us know whose emails are better, lol. Because basically we started the email by saying like, yo, Jake here, Jonas is showering, so I'm stealing his laptop because I thought his emails were mid. Anyways, and then we get into the tracking system. So this is the purely value-based email, very simple stuff. You guys can read by pausing this video if you'd like. Pure value, and then also just, again, reminding them what they're getting inside the program, and all of that. And then another video for them to watch, and that's pretty much it. Then case study, very basic, but just notice the way that it's structured and formatted. Very easy to read, bolding the right keywords, underlining the right stuff, being very concrete and tangible, using all the numbers when possible to be as tangible as possible. And then email 7 here we have, are you gay? First name. Again, it's about understanding your audience, guys. But basically this email is going through pretty much like essentially from the framework. If we go back onto day 3 here, it's kind of like the cost of inaction. It's like what their life looks like if they continue to be gay, aka they continue to run the gay boyfriend model, versus if they go into portfolio growth operating, which is our new opportunity. So again, throwing rocks and doing it in a way that's unique and funny and resonates with our audience, right? Because obviously, again, this wouldn't work for every audience, right? Some would get triggered. But anyways, you can't make your work harder on your schedule, whatever. That's very basic stuff here. But yeah, we kind of get into that, and we, again, sell them on the new opportunity, make them super excited to jump on this call. Then we get into a story, my first 10K PIF, and we sort of talk about how the value that's within, the program allowed us to achieve this specific result. So very simple stuff. So specifically with that email, the only thing I have to remember is that you're just selling your program and tying it back to some sort of credibility to back it up with proof, right? Now, email 9, you have the last reminder. Very simple. What's good, legend? Just a quick reminder. Show up. We'll talk about X, Y, and Z. That's it. See you soon, Jonas. Reply to this if you have any questions or if you want to reschedule. And then email 10, hop in. Yo, on call right now. Image of offer owner on Zoom call. Hop in, brother. Zoom link. See you there, Jonas. And that's pretty much it. That pretty much concludes it for the pre-call email sequence. So yeah, appreciate y'all watching this video and sticking around till the end. So obviously I've got some source for y'all. So if you want access to the actual SOP and AI prompts that I use to write this email sequence that I actually license inside of a multi-four-figure program, then go ahead and shoot me a DM on IG here, and I'll send them over to you for completely free. But make sure to follow me, otherwise I will not see your DM. But yeah, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some value out of it. I hope you learned something new, and let me know if you did. And yeah, talk soon. Peace.